Every NFL player knows that a spot on the team is not guaranteed. Even if you've been having success, a variety of reasons can result in even the most seasoned of veterans being released. And 2021 is no different.
Wendell is cut. Rudy is cut. Janie, you're gone. Steven, I like your hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you.
With the 2021 draft over, it's time for NFL teams to make several difficult decisions as they try to free up both cap space and roster room ahead of the regular season. With that said, let's dive into the 10 biggest names that are most likely to get cut following the NFL draft. Jimmy Garoppolo. After news broke of the San Francisco 49ers blockbuster trade for the Miami Dolphins number 3 selection in the 2021 draft, two things were certain. 1. The team was taking a quarterback, and 2. Jimmy Garoppolo was on borrowed time in San Fran. The 49ers used the number 3 pick on North Dakota State product Trey Lance, whose jaw-dropping skill set should make him a star in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Garoppolo has been a solid quarterback when healthy, but his expensive contract and injury history have made him, well, expendable. And we can't forget about Shanahan's conservative play calling in the trip to Super Bowl 54, a clear sign that he doesn't fully trust Garoppolo to close out games. The 49ers will have themselves a lot of money if they cut or trade Garoppolo, either $23.6 million if it's pre-June 1st, or $25 million post-June 1st, per overthecap.com. So if the 49ers can't find any takers for Garoppolo, it might make sense for them to release him outright. The 49ers can say, Jimmy's our quarterback for now all they want. But when you invest that much capital in Lance, you obviously want him to start very soon. So don't be surprised if Garoppolo is cut this offseason, and if Lance is handed the starting duties immediately. Jimmy Graham. The Chicago Bears were heavily criticized when they handed the former Pro Bowl tight end a 2-year deal worth $16 million in 2020 free agency. By Graham's credit, he somewhat silenced the doubters by scoring 8 touchdowns and helping Chicago to its second playoff appearance in 3 years. Still, Graham is far from a game changer and isn't worth the $10 million cap hit he's slated to carry in 2021. If the Bears cut Graham, they'll save $7 million against the cap. That seems like too wise of a move for GM Ryan Pace to pass on. The Bears feature Allen Robinson, David Montgomery, and Darnell Mooney far more in their offense. Why pay Graham all this money when he's merely your 4th or 5th best skill position guy? If even that. Preston Smith. The Green Bay Packers struck gold when they signed Preston Smith to a 4-year, $52 million contract in 2019 free agency. His presence helped Green Bay to consecutive division titles and NFC championship games. Smith racked up 12 sacks in his first season with the Packers. That number dropped down to 4 in 2020, and he wasn't much of a factor in Green Bay's 2 playoff games. Smith did restructure his deal early in the offseason, but that doesn't guarantee his return to the franchise in 2021. The Packers would be taking a calculated risk by keeping Smith on the roster with the belief that he'll bounce back. Topping his career 2019 season was always going to be difficult, and if the franchise ends up trading disgruntled quarterback Aaron Rodgers, the front office could opt for a rebuild, and that usually means cutting or trading expensive veterans like Smith. Mario Addison. The Buffalo Bills' usually stingy defense took a giant step back in 2020. Luckily, Josh Allen pieced together an MVP-caliber season and guided Buffalo to the AFC's second-best record and a conference championship appearance. GM Brandon Beane knew the importance of reshaping the defense, so he used his first and second-round picks on pass rushers Gregory Rousseau and Carlos Basham Jr. respectively. Those 2 picks suddenly made veteran Mario Addison very expendable. He has a cap hit of just over $8.17 million for the 2021 season. But of course, the Bills can save just over $6 million if they release Addison this offseason. Addison posted at least 9 sacks in each of his final 4 years with the Carolina Panthers from 2016 to 2019. So you can't blame the Bills for taking a chance on him in free agency. But he just wasn't a fit last season, recording only 5 sacks. And with 2 rookies on the way, it's hard to envision him regaining that success we saw in Carolina. The Bills have 2 new hopeful pass rushing studs in Rousseau and Basham. At this point, it'd be wise to cut their losses and release Addison at some point this offseason. Jamie Collins. The previous Detroit Lions regime of Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia had an obsession with bringing in former New England Patriots to try and help establish a winning culture. Spoiler alert, Quinn and Patricia aren't Bill Belichick, so it didn't work. One recent example was the signing of linebacker Jamie Collins. Following a productive 2019 reunion with the Pats, Collins signed a 3-year, $30 million contract with the Lions. But coming off perhaps his best season yet, Collins was far from impactful in 2020. He had just 1 sack and garnered a mere 64.1 grade from Pro Football Focus on the season. And according to Pro Football Reference, Collins allowed 434 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns while in coverage. The Lions restructured Collins' deal this offseason, but again, it doesn't mean that he's automatically on the roster for next year. Detroit has a brand new front office and coaching staff, one that wasn't responsible for handing him that $30 million last year. If head coach Dan Campbell and GM Brad Holmes decide that Collins isn't a fit for this defense, they won't hesitate to cut ties with him. Sony Michel. The Patriots might regret spending a 2018 first-round pick on running back Sony Michel. But hey, at least he provided the team with 2 straight 900-yard seasons, and of course, he scored the game-winning touchdown against the Los Angeles Rams in Super Bowl 53. Still, Bill Belichick is never one to hold on to running backs for too long, no matter how much success they've had with him. Just look at guys like Stephen Ridley, LeGarrette Blount, and Dion Lewis. The Patriots already declined the 5th-year option on Michel's rookie deal. They have a capable lead back in Damian Harris, who flourished in 2020. And let's not forget about the ever-reliable James White. In addition to those 2 vets, they also added rookie Ramondre Stevenson in the 4th round of the draft. Anyone can succeed in the Patriots' offense behind that stout offensive line. Belichick is obviously planning for a future without Michel in his backfield. Choosing to decline his 5th-year option was a clear sign of that. With a crowded running back depth chart, it certainly looks like Michel may have already played his final snap with the Patriots. If he's not released ahead of the preseason, don't be shocked if he's one of the final cuts prior to Week 1. Zach Ertz. The Philadelphia Eagles decided not to give the veteran tight end an extension ahead of the 2020 season, and Ertz expresses unhappiness over this. Then he went out and had the worst statistical season of his career in 2020. Not exactly a good way to prove to the front office that they made a mistake. In 11 games, Ertz caught just 36 passes for 335 yards and 1 touchdown. He averaged a career-low 4.7 yards per catch and just 30.5 yards per game. Simply put, he looked nothing like the Pro Bowler we are accustomed to seeing. The Eagles began a giant overhaul after the regular season, firing head coach Doug Peterson before releasing veteran wideouts Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, providing some much-needed youth at the pass-catching position. Up next, it's time to cut ties with Ertz. The Eagles have a potential star at tight end in Dallas Goedert, who could totally break out in the number 1 role. Ertz has done enough for the organization to the point where he shouldn't have to feel frustrated or disrespected. He knows deep down his time in Philly is up. So why keep him on the roster? Cut Ertz now and let him find his next home before preseason commences. Nate Solder. In 2018, the New York Giants signed the former Patriots standout offensive tackle to a mega 4-year contract worth $62 million. The first 2 seasons of that deal left a lot to be desired, however. The 2-time Super Bowl champion opted out of the 2020 season, thus keeping him under team control through the 2022 campaign. Now, the Giants may feel inclined to keep Solder given the state of their lackluster offensive line. If Andrew Thomas can't bounce back from a disappointing rookie year, Daniel Jones will have it tough in a make-or-break season. But the Giants have also seen enough of Solder to understand he's not going to provide the same type of reliability that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick enjoyed in New England. In that case, maybe it makes sense to release Solder and explore other options in free agency. According to PFF, Solder allowed 11 sacks and took 5 penalties in the 2019 season. Not sure if a year away from football will do much to help Solder bounce back at this point. The Giants might wait to see how Solder fares in the preseason before they make a decision. The bottom line is that Solder remains a very likely cut candidate between now and Week 1. D. Ford. The San Francisco 49ers invested a lot on their front 7 during the 2019 offseason. It started with the trade of Kansas City Chiefs superstar pass rusher D. Ford, who then signed a 5-year contract worth $87.5 million. A month later, the 49ers used the number 2 draft selection on Nick Bosa. One of those moves has paid major dividends. The other? Not so much. In 2019, Ford suited up for just 11 games. He was productive with 6.5 sacks, but didn't exactly look like the Pro Bowl talent we saw in Kansas City. Then in 2020, Ford missed all but 1 game because of neck and back injuries. The 49ers could look to retain Ford for at least another year, but his injury history and giant contract are very concerning. And with a cap crunch on the horizon, San Fran might look to cut bait now. If the 49ers do want to move on, they would ideally find a taker for Ford's contract. That shouldn't be overly difficult, considering that he's among the top pass rushers in the league when healthy. But if that doesn't come to fruition, keep an eye on the possibility of Ford getting released. The 49ers know they can get by with Bosa, Fred Warner, Eric Armstead, and Javon Kinlaw leading the front seven on their own. Jalen Smith. The Dallas Cowboys used their first-round selection this year on Penn State linebacker Micah Parsons. That move immediately put the long-term futures of both Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith in Dallas in question. The Cowboys declined the fifth-year option on Vander Esch's rookie contract, but he doesn't feel like a hot release candidate because, well, the Cowboys have him on a cheap salary for 2021. As for Smith, he signed a 6-year contract extension worth $68 million in the 2019 offseason, and he carries a $9.8 million cap hit for 2021. The Cowboys have a new defensive coordinator in Dan Quinn, who's now tasked with fixing what was far and away the absolute worst unit in franchise history just a year ago. With Parsons now in the fold, the Cowboys could decide to move on from Smith by either trading him or releasing him. This team is right up against the cap following Dak Prescott's $160 million extension. Releasing Smith in 2022 might be more realistic, since Dallas would only take on $6.8 million in dead money. But if Mike McCarthy and company decide to give the defense a major shakeup, Smith could find himself back on the free agent market. The Cowboys would probably be wise to keep Smith. There's a new DC and a can't-miss rookie linebacker leading the charge after all. But the NFL is a business. The Cowboys really like Smith and what he brings to the table. But if they start to feel intense buyer's remorse, and if they don't think he can live up to his contract in 2021 and beyond, then they may just make the difficult decision of cutting him now. But what other notable NFL players could be released post-draft? Join us in the comments section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.